In the US, it's presidential election season. There are lots of people expounding upon all kinds of high stakes topics. What's best for you, what's best for the country, what's gonna keep everyone safe and successful. Candidates, pundits, your pals, making points, making promises, making arguments. And in the course of the political proceedings, I've seen plenty of the fallacies that we've covered before here on Idea Channel, but there are a few cropping up that we haven't yet covered, so I thought we'd better. But first, some business. First, repeat after me. Because someone uses fallacious reasoning, that does not make them wrong. See our fallacy video for more. Second, often with fallacies, it's imagined they're ideally replaced with facts, reason, empiricism. For better or worse though, political rhetoric, like a lot of theory, philosophy, and social topics, is really largely about subjectivity, what's right, fair, or just. These determinations may be influenced by, but they ultimately lay beyond facts, reason, and empiricism. Fallacies are deployed, often unintentionally, as a way to make subjective arguments appear rational, where there is, in fact, no fact, only preference. And at base, that's okay. But ideally, politicians, for instance, are honest with their constituents and have the confidence and courage to say what they believe without dressing it up as logic. Being fallaciously literate is one of many ways we can hold our politicians accountable. And third, unlike our previous fallacy videos, these fallacies will not be released individually. One convenient package right here. Okay, on with the show. Our first fallacy is the appeal to emotion, or as I like to call it, appeals to the feels. An appeal to emotion is exactly what it sounds like. Someone appeals directly to the emotions of their audience or interlocutor. The appeal to emotion is very effective in that it bypasses all the stuff that's hard about making good arguments: rigor, coherence, consistency, supporting material, and it hits them right in the feels. This fallacy preys on an audience's fears, guilt, pride, their sense of self-worth, high or low, through flattery or confirmation that, yeah, they got it bad. It's fueled by hate of, support for, or hope regarding all manner of topics. Whatever feeling is most useful for making the point. A classic appeal to emotion is the old cliche, "Won't somebody please think of the children?" As another example, candidates Mike and Straw Mike are debating the benefits of nutritional education. The truth is, Americans consume 47% more sodium per day than recommended. Cheeseburgers are not a daily meal. If we educate the public, cut sodium intake, according to the CDC, we could save $26 billion in healthcare costs. But cheeseburgers make this country great. After a long, hard day of good, old-fashioned American labor, what are you gonna do? Eat a salad? No, you earned that cheeseburger. Don't you let the government tell you what to eat. Cheeseburger, cheeseburger. Here, Mike has statistics about sodium intake and uses one popular food item as a metonym for a larger dietary issue. Straw Mike seizes on that item and connects it to things he knows the audience feels great pride in, feels satisfaction about, and also have great fear of. A cheeseburger in this moment becomes a very complex symbol, all thanks to Straw Mike's appeal to emotion. It's worth noting though that appeals to emotion aren't always verboten. There are topics which, rightfully so, deal exclusively in feels. So there's no avoiding it, and you may even want to appeal to emotions to get people hyped. The problem arises when you bring a spoon to a knife fight and appeal to emotions during discussions about not emotions. On to fallacy number 2, the non-sequitur. Non-sequitur means does not follow in Latin. There are many types of non-sequitur fallacy, but across the board, they all contain a conclusion that doesn't follow from the premise. First, we're gonna talk about the fallacy of the converse, AKA affirming the consequent. Here, a premise is stated, like, if Janet has lots of experience, then Janet is good at her job. That premise is then used to confirm its converse. Janet is good at her job, therefore, Janet must have lots of experience. Even if the premise is totally true, the conclusion doesn't logically follow. This is a non sequitur because Janet could be great at what she does and be the newest hire. Experience is a sufficient but not necessary condition for crushing it at the office. Often in political speech, abbreviated converse fallacies are used to build credibility, like, if I'm not so great to work with, why have I been so successful? Or why would I ever lie? I would just disappoint my constituency. A related fallacy is that of the undistributed middle. This is where the subjects of two premises are incorrectly associated because they share a term. So, for instance, premise 1, all bicycles are single-track vehicles. Premise 2, all pogo sticks are single-track vehicles. Therefore, pogo sticks are bicycles, which would be rad, but unfortunately is not the case because the converse of the first premise, all single-track vehicles are bicycles, is not true. Importantly, the first premise doesn't even need to be correct. People just need to accept it as non-controversial so the speaker can move on to their now even more spurious conclusion. Because it's about categories, set membership, and what things are, the fallacy of the undistributed middle becomes a powerful tool of political rhetoric when its premise involves false equivalencies, stereotypes, common sense, and appeals to emotion. For instance, Mike and Straw Mike are talking about their constituency. And that is why we need to keep fighting to make sure everyone feels welcome. Not true here. We're doing great. People who don't support me, they are all short-sighted narcissists, like those millennials. Those millennials, they only care about themselves and what's happening right now, on Twitter probably. The only group of people who don't support us, the kids and their phones. Who needs them? Where Mike, it seems, seeks plurality, Straw Mike is confident in his success without broad appeal. He has, however, fallaciously argued that since all people who aren't swayed by his politics are narcissists, premise which is likely untrue, and that all millennials are narcissists, a second untrue premise, the only people who aren't swayed by his policies are millennials, a fallacious conclusion. Even so, this argument could reaffirm for Straw Mike and his constituency who is and is not a part of the in-group, meaning though it is fallacious, it's not without value. There are many more non-sequitur constructions and they are all useful to know. We'll put links in the doobly-doo. Our final fallacy for today is the appeal to nature. This is where one claims that something is natural and therefore good, or unnatural and therefore bad. Often those who commit this fallacy confuse ideological positions for logical, and therefore natural, and therefore correct. To put it another way, perpetrators of this fallacy assume that their feelings on issues indicate what is truly the case, or what is natural about those issues, when in fact the issues at hand are likely neither natural nor unnatural, and even if they are, often their naturalness factors directly into their quality, either very little or not at all. This fallacy is often compared to the philosophical distinction between is and ought, aka Hume's law. When talking about the state of things, people may mistake their opinions about what ought to be the case for facts about what is the case. A notable example is found with same-sex marriage. Many people say that marriage is the union of a man and a woman. This is a fallacy because marriage is, in fact, a social legal contract maintained individually by the people and institutions who practice, perform, and uphold it. What they mean to say is that in their opinion, marriage ought to be between a man and a woman because, as proponents of this view are often quick to point out, this is what they find natural given their worldview. As another example, Mike and Straw Mike are debating armed conflict. Military operations should be our last resort. It's diplomacy now or diplomacy later, and after trillions spent and countless lives lost. You just don't get it, do you? People don't listen until you threaten them, and we're unsafe until you do. You know, man's been doing it forever. If you think talking solves problems, you're denying your nature and the nature of the people who are gonna shoot first. Where Mike is advocating for potentially drawn out, potentially wimpy sounding foreign policy solutions, Straw Mike has appealed to emotions related to safety and combat prowess, and made the argument that war is part of human nature and therefore good. It is who we are, it is who our opponents are, and so it is desirable and effective. This conclusion is, of course, fallacious. That is all for this fallacy video. There are many, many more bad, incoherent, inconsistent, but no less convincing arguments that are gonna be made this political season and every other political season everywhere else for the rest of time, for that matter. So please listen carefully, think deeply, and be considerate. That includes being considerate when you do, in the course of conversation, political conversation doubly so, spot a fallacy. If someone attempts to appeal to your emotions or the emotions of their audience, if they don't distribute a middle term or claim something is unnatural and therefore bad, I'm gonna go on the record that shouting, "Hey, that's fallacious, you did a fallacy," is counterproductive and against the spirit of conversation. If you wanna fight, shout all of the inane slander you want. I mean, I don't think you should, but That's me. If you want to discuss, asking questions that reposition the speaker and get them to contradict themselves while you offer your perspective is always more productive. Telling someone they're wrong just makes them entrench deeper, especially when it comes to political topics where, as we said at the front of this episode and NPR put so well, sometimes the facts don't matter. We are not gonna be doing a comment response video for this fallacy episode, but if you wanna use the comments below to keep track of and discuss and point out all of the different fallacies that are perpetrated during the course of this political season and others, I think that would be pretty rad. Just as a reminder, there is no comment response video this week, but if you haven't yet, head over to the Idea Channel subreddit and check out the thread for our book club, the discussion of Pierre Menard, author of Don Quixote. It has been super fun. It may turn into a video. There might be a comment response style video that happens out of that. We'll see, still kind of working it through, but the discussion has been so fun. Also, I know short notice, but if you are in or around New York City later tonight, Wednesday, August 31st, I'm gonna be at the Atlas Live event at Union Hall in Park Slope. I'm gonna be talking about people playing games against artificial intelligence. Maybe I'll see you there. We have a Facebook and IRC and a subreddit, links in the doobly-doo, and the tweet of the week comes from Ken Kyer, who points us towards a very apropos post-secret. Also, it's just nice to know that post-secret is still doing their thing. I, for whatever reason, checked out of post-secret a little while ago, and it's heartening to see the post-secrets are still being posted. And last but certainly not least, this week's episode would not have been possible or good without the very hard work of these cheeseburger lovers.